see all the three, if you don't mind. Scroll
Yeah.
down, please, a little bit. On the right, I see that. Right, right. Wikipedia, right. Scroll the mouse. If you move it on the right, below, below, down. There, there, there. Exactly. Wikipedia. Down, down, little down. There is Wikipedia link. Blue color. The ego, idea, and are the three different interacting instances of human soul, as Sigmund Freud summarized as defined in his structural model. He developed this theoretical psychic apparatus to describe the basic structure and various phenomena of mental life as they were constructed in psychoanalytic practice. Freud himself used the German terms as so and so. The Latin terms id, ego, superego were chosen by his original translators and have remained in use. Freud used this terms soul and psyche synonymously in the sense of human organism as a whole. Okay, we'll go this down, down. Okay, one down. According to last paragraph, according to Freud as well as ego psychology, the idea is set of uncoordinated instinctual needs. You saw that? The last paragraph, can you highlight? Yeah. So basically, ID is the set of instinctual needs. Superego plays the moralizing role via internalized experiences. Superego is responsible for religion and stuff like that. And ego is the perceiving, uh, logically organizing agent that mediates between ID's intellectual desires, the demands of the external reality, and those of critical superego. Freud compared ego in its relation to ID, the man on a horseback. The rider must restrain the direct superior energy of his animal at times, allow for the satisfaction of its urges if he wants to keep it alive and the species healthy. Ego is thus in the habit of transforming the IDs in, into will into action as if it were its own. Okay. Fine, you explain from now on. Please scroll down and explain.
Which one?
No, just scroll down and see if it is important. Okay, so he's taking a horse and a human and he's comparing.
Hmm. No, but the context is, I guess, the context over here is getting differed from what we want to discuss. So
No, no,
ego,
ID. See, the thing is, if you discuss about ego, you also have to discuss about ID and superego, just for the brief context. And then let us discuss identity.
no, I mean, see, what I understand ego and identity in spiritual context is ego is something which, you give yourself so much importance than as if like, uh, as if this is permanent situation or this is a permanent thing. Like, and especially ego comes from the knowledge. Like, I know this thing, I understand this thing, I am aware about this thing. So when this I becomes so much importance, you start to have that ego internally. You don't show it, you don't realize it. It's very tiny line between realization and not realization. Like ego is something, what I understand, it is a it is something which is, blocking you to be aware. Because because the human nature or human behavior, everyone wants to be right. Like, I know everything, I know something, or I can understand this thing. But when you start give the importance to yourself, that when I become so much importance, you start to go into ignorance somehow. Because your listening also changes, and when you speak, you're listening and you're saying all the things gets changes. Are you getting, I mean, what I'm trying to say?
Not
This is
completely.
this is very important actually. So, where I ask you some question, okay, in terms of spirituality, let's say, where we'll go in this example only, in this spiritual example. So if I ask you something in spirituality that, hey, Ashwin, are you aware about this philosophy? So if you are in ignorance, and if you know this thing, right? I mean, if you know about, let's say, meditation, you will directly jump in and say, oh, yes, yes, I know everything. I know about meditation because I have given so much time on a meditation. I've given 20 years or 30 years on meditation, practicing meditation, understanding the meditation. I have speak with so many speakers to know about meditation. I've read the books, this, all that. So when you give so much time, and you start to give importance to yourself, then that, oh, I have given so much time, so I know this thing. So when that importance, the I become, when you give the importance to yourself, it starts to, grow your uh, ego. I mean, ego is something internal. You express it in your words when you say it, but then that blocks you. It is ignorance. It is not, the knowledge becomes ignorance then, because you stop yourself to know more, and that creates a disturbance around you and everywhere.
Mm.
Anyone getting anything? Because this is very critically, I'm sure that not everyone will get at a first point. This is something, because I also got, मुझे भी बहुत टाइम लगा इसको समझने में, और अभी भी आई एम स्टिल ट्राइंग टू गेट अंडरस्टैंड. इट्स नॉट completely finished. The topic is such.
Yeah, I mean, ego, if what I understand is the ignorance is the part where we start to, neglect people or their thoughts, their behaviors, and giving our thoughts, our experiences more priorities than others. That's
Correct,
what I
correct.
think.
So it's not about priorities. Priorities has a different meaning. So first also we have to understand that the ego, what we have understood till now, it is completely different. It's not ego. It's something just foolishness. But when it comes to when you are on a spiritual path, the ego is very different than what we have understood till now. For now,
Okay.
what we have understood, like for non-spiritual seeker, they understand that ego is something that, he has or she has an attitude of his possessions, what he has. Like, he's rich, then he has an ego. He don't have a good behavior, or his attitude is not right. No, that is not ego. Ego, that is foolishness actually. But ego is something which you block yourself. You block yourself from the knowledge. It is ignorance. So the difference should be clear first, that what we have understood till now is not that, is it's not an ego. Let's say ego is a mental construct that creates a sense of separation and individuality. It's a mental thing, and we are not aware about it. We should be aware about this first, that okay, I also have an ego, or I can have this ego. When you are aware about that ego, the ignorance goes away. Ego is something, it is a mental construct. that I know, I understand, I got the point. Oh, okay, Janice, now I understood what is ego. So this is a mental construct, this is a mental thing. And this blocks you from, you know, from openness. Ashwin?
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay. Okay. Janish, just 10 minutes. I need to use the washroom. I'll be back, okay?
Okay, okay. Yes, Sagar, please go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I was just trying to understand what exactly uh, you guys is talking about, which is I mean, very sure that it is about ego, and I have a slightly different, if not completely different, but secondary understanding of this.
Hmm.
Um, More of you know in a um, no, I mean, this is not like a regular format of living wherein you understand yourselves to be superior than the surroundings. I mean, you understand yourself superior than the surroundings you are in, and that superiority complex sometimes might be, you know,
Hmm.
helpful also, which makes you things, which enables you to go forward in things the way you want it as a human being, as a self,
Hmm.
and it also has this downside where the more you do it, the more you are into a well of uh, you know
Hmm.
misery. Basically, I mean, it kinds of eats within. Basically, is what I understood. Um, More than, I mean, ego is good if oneself uses it to an extent that is needed. But beyond that, I think it eats itself, like it eats oneself. Means to say, like how, I mean, other way around, which blocks the chances of getting to know more. I don't know if it made sense.
No, it does actually, Sagar. And you are the point which you have raised over that it
Hmm.
makes you feel superior of everyone. That's true. And that is actually the formation or a creation of ego. That's where ego starts.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it starts as simple as when, um, you know, when there is like a family and in that family, there is a new kid born,
Hmm.
and it starts from right there. I mean, if you have to give a scenario, it starts from right where, um, if a parent is having a newborn, and in a way, they want to do things they understand, you know, rather than letting the kid know with its own journey. Even the parents end up being ego. I mean, being in under the shadow of ego, where no, this is what is correct, and this is how it has to be, and that will be enforced to the further generations also. You know, not actually seeking the things how the kid naturally has to seek. I mean, yeah, like
No,
basic.
that
Hmm.
yeah, that is correct, Sagar. So that is the part of the ego. But
Correct.
what we are discussing here, or what we want to discuss or here is
Hmm.
what is the ego in spiritual journey? When we are into this journey of knowing
Hmm.
who am I, or what is this universe made of, and this whole context of spirituality. What is the
Hmm.
ego in spiritual context?
Right. I mean,
That
that
is
goes
one
back to,
point. Yeah, that is one point which you have discussed, that goes into our
yeah,
day-to-day life when you are still not aware about the spiritual life, that there are
yes,
something more bigger than you. Till then, the definition of ego is what you have said. But now
right, right.
when you enter into this journey, what is ego?
Mm-hmm.
How do you see as a ego when you are spiritual? That's the point. And because the ego doesn't go, because it's a human conditioning, what we have been
Yes,
given,
yes, yes.
yeah, what we have been learned, or what we have been doing till now, every action of our daily life from morning to till we sleep, we have certain conditioning of in our mind from from since we were born. So this is all conditioning becomes a part of our journey, and we think that we know all this thing because we are trained in that way. Now that part of the ego is it's all right, or it is defined right until we are not into a spiritual journey. But once we are into a spiritual journey, still those activities or still some uh, conditioning will be there in our mind. Not everything goes away. You
Right.
get to know more things about your life, about the universe, about spirituality, but then certain part of your our brain is still in that conditioning which denies the beliefs, or which accepts the that okay, I understood or I know. So certain part of our conditioning of our brain is still there. So how do we see that part of our conditioning when we are in the spiritual part? That is the discussion we are having. So
Right.
we have to look at it, the ego, when we are on a spiritual path. We have to see from the spiritual angle.
Mhm. Right. So in that direction, I think anything that blocks our clear path, like a visual path in in moving forward with the journey, I
Hmm,
think that's it could be as minimal as possible.
exactly.
Yeah, it is ego, which, I mean, even in the slightest way, if it is blocking the path of knowledge, I think
Correct.
it is ego.
Correct, correct. It is where it stops you to, to get knowledge. I mean, you stop yourself to believe or to have a more knowledge about spirituality or walk on the spiritual path. It's a ego. I mean,
Yes,
that's how. See, there are many definitions, and all the definitions could be different in a words, but the intention or the context of the definition
correct, correct.
will lead to the ignorance point only, that we are still ignorant about ourselves,
Right.
that I have something, that I still have the identity, that I am something or I know everything. We cannot make die of ourselves.
Right.
That is the identity, and that is only the ego. It's not different. Identity and
Yeah.
ego is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we see that even though there are, if you have seen in some concerts, or like in some spiritual seminar, there is very serious debate, or serious conversation goes on, discussion on spirituality. Why? Because there are different beliefs, and no one wants to believe that, no, till now or so far, what I have known could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I have given time, or I have understood this, or I have learned from a specific guru who knows everything. So I understand, then this is the only right way on the spiritual path. So that is something, what, when we give so much importance to ourselves, and when we are not open to others thoughts, the identity builds, and that is the only ego. That identity is the ego.
Yeah, it's definitely that bubble, imaginable bubble that's around us for sure, which lets us not, surpass the full potential for sure. Yes.
Hmm. And sorry, and it also, it will not make you grow anywhere. It will make you die only at the end of the day. Die in the sense ignorance. You
Yeah,
will not be open.
I feel more than ignorance, it's a self-taught habit that,
Yes,
like I said initially, about being superior and
correct.
being known more,
Yes, yes,
which creates a bubble around oneself, and
correct,
the person or the media stays in that bubble, and when there is bubble has not got enough oxygen anymore, of course, that energy dies, as in the person or the energy inside that bubble dies.
correct, correct. Viral, are you getting something or it's all confusing?
Processing actually, but the definition what I gave is more or less, I mean, in the spirituality context, it's a bit different than what
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just mentioned.
till now, what we know ego is, it's a
Hmm.
foolishness. I mean, it's also ego only, but we'll not give importance to that behavior or that context, because when you are on a spiritual path, at least you are aware about your behavior, that I'm not going to be rude to anyone for no reason, or at
Hmm.
least for the reason also why I know I have many other ways to explain this or that. But when you're on spiritual, so that part we are not considering now, because that is not relatable. I mean, it is all foolishness. But when still we are in, okay, let me put it that way, that when you are unaware in the sense when you are not in a spiritual path, the ego is something which is to be shown to others, that okay, I have or I know, or it all deals with you showing as a superior, as Sagar has mentioned. Okay, that is clear. It is something your behavior reflects is to the other, that you are showing that I know, I have, I am the one, I become so much importance, and you show that to the others when you are not on a spiritual path. But when you are on a spiritual path, you become aware. Then it starts deals with you. It is inside your. It is in your mind that I know this thing. I have understood this thing, and you fight inside yours with your mind. Your mind starts fighting inside. You don't show everything to others, and you don't pretend to be superior outside. You pretend to be superior inside. And when you pretend to be superior inside with yourself, your mind start operating like inside only, that I know this thing, I know, I have read this philosophy, I know this belief. When your mind pretends to be superior inside, you block your spiritual path, because you become limited.
Hmm.
Making sense?
Yeah, it's more of having deal with yourself rather than other people.
Yes, yes, yes. So let us see what is
But
spiritual ego.
it is
So this
mostly
is
in,
just,
sorry to interrupt. I just had a point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Sagar.
Like,
We can discuss this point again. Go ahead.
yeah, so I mean, how it is about to deal with oneself for sure. Uh, but it always arises when there is, external factors to affect to
Correct.
oneself. Like it is mostly it. I mean, most of the time, I feel it arises when there is external factors or external people involved in a situation or a scenario. And of course, there is self ego also, even when there is less amount of external factors or people involved.
Hmm.
Sometimes it could be just with oneself. Oh, I knew, let's say, I knew this. few years ago. I knew better now, so let me take this kind of a decision which is based on what I know now, and which ends up being, you know, not very accurate decision. So, what I'm trying to say is, I think ego plays a role when um, there is a lot of external factors involved and also internal factors, but mostly with the kind of understanding I have, I think it is mostly with external factors involved.
Definitely.
And yeah, and that is how, like I was talking about, this bubble surrounding us, like
Mhm.
surrounding oneself, which absolutely limits the growth.
No, it's true. I mean, the external force will always be there. There will, it's never gonna be like you are alone in this universe, and it's not going to be happen. There will be external forces, but then you deal with yourself. You give so much importance to yourself inside your brain, inside your mind. That's where this spiritual ego rises. I mean, on the spiritual, when you're on spiritual path. Let's
I,
keep this definition of what
hmm,
is spiritual
spiritual
ego,
ego.
or
Hmm,
rather
hmm,
we will say that what is ego in spiritual path.
hmm,
So
hmm.
I think anyone wants to read this thing, so we can discuss on then.
Yes, and the identity of being spiritually involved. It's a set of beliefs that can create blueprint of who you are, should be, and how you understand the world. Uh,
So a spiritual ego is a mind that is filled with spiritual beliefs and ideas, and the identity of being spiritually evolved. This is very
hmm,
important.
hmm, hmm,
And the identity of being spiritually evolved. It's a set of beliefs that can create a blueprint of who you are and should be and how you understand the world. So let's finish, then we can discuss. Here are some characteristics of spiritual ego. Beliefs. A spiritual ego can include beliefs that you are a part of a whole, and that you are experiencing gratitude and appreciation. Filter. A spiritual ego can be filtered through which you understand the world and interact with others. Tricky. A spiritual ego can be tricky because you might think you have overcome the ego and are living your true self. This is also very important point we'll discuss on this thing. The ego is an individual sense of self, which can include their beliefs, thoughts, attitudes, and values. It can be seen as a mediator between the individual and the external world. Okay. So if you let's go step by step. A spiritual ego is a mind that is filled with spiritual beliefs and ideas and the identity of being spiritually evolved. Anyone getting this part? And the identity of being spiritually evolved? This is very clear. That is filled with spiritual beliefs and ideas. If anyone can try explaining this part.
I think any prefix that you add with ego has a very similar meaning, I feel, Janesh. I mean, so, but here in this context, if we are speaking as a spiritual ego, I think it's again walking the path of knowing more with respect to, external factors than oneself.
Hmm.
And in that path, taking the decisions that uh, which might look like, oh, okay, this, I mean, for the external world, it might look like this person knows more, but when you go deep within, you understand that, okay, this is also something which not fully evolved yet. It is just still
Hmm.
in the form of creation.
Exactly.
So,
But if you have that openness, then only you can get that thing right.
hmm,
If you are stuck with some philosophy, let's say that if we can put it in an example, then let's put
hmm,
it in example as a Buddhist. There is a
hmm,
one tradition of Buddhism, and there is another uh, uh, philosophy,
Mm,
the tradition is of Advait Vedanta. Now, both the philosophies are very spiritual, highly spiritual. They
mm,
both have the um, philosophies, and like they have the process and the techniques of getting to know who am I or what is this universe,
right.
right? But the Buddhist follower and the Advait Vedanta follower, they both have their egos that, my way is the right way. Even though their philosophies are right, they are not wrong. Like Gautam Buddha has shown the path for the enlightenment. What is
Mm.
enlightenment? As per now, what we have understood is that when you know who you are, like who am I is the biggest question of spirituality. Who am I is the biggest question, right? They all give the pathway to who am I, but they all have their own beliefs, their own process, their own ideas of walking on that path. But when Buddhist and Advait Vedanta or Vedanta, when they debate, they both have their spiritual egos that my way is the best way. In your way, you have these certain gaps or loopholes, but in my way there is no loopholes. You can directly attend to the enlightenment. Are you getting
Yes.
this point?
Yes, yes. So when there is a, I mean, at certain point, anyone in this world has to accept one part of the ego for sure,
Exactly.
which gives them an identity, or else without identity they are nowhere. Correct?
Hmm.
I mean, why I'm bringing this point, because I think is it something correlation to ID that you guys were discussing earlier? Is it the same? Identity and ID is the same?
It is the same. It is the
Ah,
same.
so yeah, so that brings me, kind of an idea how, see, I think it's like you said, it's very conditioned within ourselves, like to the core,
Hmm.
where the sense of safety. I mean, let's say let's go back to the age of storage, or even these ape man stage.
Hmm.
I think if you go back then, the primary thing to survive was safety. Correct?
Survival.
Yeah, survival and safety. I mean, why basically the moment you are trying to survive, you
Hmm.
also look for safety. Once
Correct.
you're safe, it's almost means like you are survived. Correct? So if you go back to that stage and think, um, the ape men again stayed together, right? Or any kind of creatures in this world try to stay together because of that identity only, which brings them the feeling of togetherness, so that they can take over the challenges the world has to throw. Correct? In that way, I think the identity is formed. So the moment identity is formed, it is again correlating to the factor of how that particular group of apes know about the external world, right? Um, like it is more like the moment you know and experience and you gain knowledge from it, you know how to handle the situations, which similar situations coming forward. And when the similar situations have to be handled, you also know there is certain set of belongingness that has to have, I mean, that group has to have.
Hmm.
So the moment that belongingness is created, and the moment that group is created, there is a ego. Okay, we have handled this situation before. Okay, where no one else can be handled better. No other group can handle better. Correct? So I think that very moment is where the ego is started, right? I mean, there are multiple ways to survive in this world, correct? But why do we think people have the ideology of or the human have an ideology of you have to make your livelihood through certain means only? Because that is what majorly accepted and kind of people also know, basically this is a illusion again, goes back to the talking part of illusion where people without even having the self awareness they accept things the way they look at, and also the kind of majority of influence they have on themselves. So based on that, they create a sense of belongingness, and when that belongingness proves to be uh, working for them, that is when that kind of ego is created there. Again, it kind of adds up to that belief system also. The moment you believe certain things, it works for you, and if that works for you, that is exactly the place where the ego is created because it has worked for you, um, and you think it can be used as a tool to people around you, right?
Yes.
uh, or the surroundings. So the moment that is there, the belief system is there, and the kind of belongingness is there, and that belongingness proves to be valid to certain set of people, and that is how the ego is started. Like because this works for us, has to work for everyone. Kind of a sense of a feeling. I mean, I know it was very long.
No, no,
Dinesh.
but it does make sense. I mean, the last line which you have said, it is very important that when you are so much self-centered and when you are so much into your identity, situation will arise that that the conditioning of mine is perfect or it's a right way, than others.
Yeah, like said, it all beliefs. It all starts from that belief system,
Correct. And
and
that's the programming how we have done, it's been done to our mind, to everyone actually, right from the childhood. That you know everything, or you try to learn from the others, you learn from
mm,
the organization, from the institution, you learn from the society, and then eventually you build up as an identity. All those
correct.
combinations from everywhere, set of the knowledge from everywhere comes into our brain, and then that as we grow it becomes an identity that yeah, I have been going through this, I have experienced this, I know this, I have read this, I've all etc etc, and then that slowly eventually that identity turns into the ego. It's a
Right.
phenomenon we can see. But the ego, when it turns into the ego, you block yourself from everywhere. Even though when you say that you are open, but your ego is so much still inside, you are not open. Why? Because when you have some new things or new philosophies or anything for say new thing other than the what you have in your database as in our mind, what we have the information, you will not accept those information. You will be very much, at very first you will be ignoring that, no, this is not the way, this should not be the way, I have done this way. I mean, I know the way, and I have been doing this thing from childhood. So basically your identity grows so much that leads the ego, and ego will block you from everything which is very you know which is very much open to know. And I mean, it is a huge barrier. Ego is a very much a big barrier for our growth in the terms of life.
Right.
Let's go to the another slide. Ashwin, you there? Viral, still you, I mean, I'm sure that this topic is not as the way that it um that you will not have a question. You will definitely have a question, but do ask, because if you are not communicating that we are not getting that you are getting or not.
Sure.
Ashwin? Okay. Uncovering your true self, identity and ego distinction. What defines me? So see, all this content over here is in the realm of spirituality, okay? What defines me? Ego answer. My achievement, possessions, and external validation. Identity answers. My values, principles, and inner sense of purpose. What makes me feel valuable? Ego answer. External recognition, praise, and success. Identity answer. My inherent worth, self acceptance, and inner peace. How do I view failure? Ego answer. Sorry, let me take this up. How do I view failure? Ego answer. Failure is unacceptable. It defines me a loser. Identity answer. Failure is an opportunity for learning and growth.
Yeah. So, like, when uh, I think I was very close to what I was trying to tell. So the external valuation plays a major role with ego. I mean, in ego, when when a person needs to uh, achieve something, and something after that post achievement, I think the ego comes in the place where, oh, okay, this is something I've done way before then set of my people or surroundings, right? So that is when the identity, uh, kind of takes a U-turn and goes into a egoistic approach, where, okay, let's say, I mean, I'm sure we all have gone through this scenario of, you know, friends growing up, like friends of, friends in a way we have made in schools, and friends in a way we have made through our neighbors, and friends uh, with kids of our parents, basically. I mean parents, friends, kids, basically. So we all, I'm sure we have all gone through where there is a part of external validation, and uh, uh, the measure of achievements that comes in when you say, okay, uh, look at my friend's daughter or son, look at them, how they are able to achieve, which you are not able to, which again starts with the ego approach, where they are superior than you, right?
Correct.
Hello. Yeah,
Yes.
so that external valuation is what always people, or the crowd themselves identify themselves with, which might definitely be you know not worthwhile or helpful, which in fact puts them into a dark spot where they are not so good at what they're doing.
Hmm.
So, I mean, in one or the other forms, ego makes its way to everyone's life. Even if you need it or not, it definitely makes its way to everyone's life for sure.
Definitely, definitely. It is a part of the life. We cannot ignore
Yeah,
that. And also one thing, it is not something which we have to undo it.
right.
What we have to do is we have to become aware of it.
Yes. Yes.
We
So,
just
like,
need to be aware that this is my ego, and this has to be internal. It's not that something you have to discuss everyone with everyone. You can do it, but there's
yeah,
no point. I mean, not everyone has an interest in your ego because they are interested in their ego. So point is that we don't have to drop this ego, or you cannot undo it. You have to just be aware. What we have to do is we have to understand actually what ego is and where it is stucking me, stopping me to be an open.
yeah.
Okay. How do I react to criticism? Ego answer, I become defensive, angry or hurt. Identity answer, I listen, reflect and use it as an opportunity for growth. What remains when everything is taken away? Ego answer, nothing. I am my possessions, relationship, and achievements. Identity answer, my essence, values, and inner self remain unchanged. How does ego affect our relationship and communication? Ego-driven communication focuses on self-validation instead of understanding others. Limits active listening as ego seeks to assert its own perspective. Reactivity rather than responding to others' emotions. Practice to reduce ego's impact. Mindfulness in conversation. Focus on truly listening rather than planning responses. Empathy, putting yourself in others' shoes to connect deeply. Letting go of right and wrong. Prioritize understanding over winning. So, this is the ways to become aware about our ego's impact. The journey of dissolving ego. Steps on the path to letting go of ego. Being in awareness, being mindfulness, self-reflection. As we have discussed, the awareness, if we just need to be aware about our ego, that we have this ego. And this is stopping us. So when you are aware, it automatically, the ego gets disappear kind of for sometimes. And then you can, do the or perform the activity which you are doing selflessly.
Right.
Tools for dissolving ego: meditation, introspection, and inner observation. I know, as I earlier said, that it has to be, it deals with yourself inside.
What is the difference between introspection and inner observation?
Introspection, you go into the detail, you go on detailing, very detailing. Let me see.
Is it like the inner observation is what and introspection is why? What you are feeling and why you are feeling.
Yes, that is very good. That is very good analogy actually. If you put it that way, introspection is why, and inner observation is what. Yes, that's the exact word actually to understand it. Hmm. Ashwin, are you getting?
Yeah, kind of.
Hmm. Okay. So common myths and misconceptions. Myth one: the ego is evil. It's about balance, not elimination. Myth two: ego and identity are the same. Differentiate their roles and impacts. Myth three: ego death means losing identity. What ego death truly means. So there are common myths and misconceptions, right? If we are not aware, we all hear all these things from everyone, from many, so-called spiritual speakers, that, ego is not good, ego is evil, ego and identity are the same thing. Ego means, ego that means you are losing your identity, means you are, you don't have any self-respect, that kind of thing we usually hear, but that's not true. Ego is not every time evil. Is this correct or wrong? Ashwin, what do you say?
The question again?
The myth is ego is evil, but it's not.
I don't think ego is evil. I don't think so.
And how do you see that way then? Can you explain?
Ego, I do not know much about it to explain actually. I'm a beginner.
Yeah. Okay.
I go with the Sigmund Freud definition because that is where we picked up ego from.
Hmm.
So he never said, I never actually read that ego is something evil. I never read about it. So I don't believe in it.
Hmm. Sagar, any insights you getting something from these myths?
Um, like I said, I mean, I feel any kind of knowledge or feeling that we have is never evil until it uh, starts to bring down. oneself, ourselves. So I don't think ego is evil again. So when used to a certain level, which brings you the inner peace, like if you, let's say, if you want to know something, see, we are doing this because we want to know ourselves, right? So when we don't have that feeling of knowing oneself, like within, which is also in a way or in a different perspective is the ego. Like I want to know something better than what I was before, which is the ego within, I feel. So it is never a evil for sure, but again, uh, something that is used beyond its places and with people, or to the amount of where it hurts um, people around you. I think that is when it gets starts to get evil. So if it is useful in the personal growth, I think that is something better direction that we are going in. But if it is used with the personal growth and a factor of uh, bothering the external people outside of you, that is when it starts to get evil, is what my understanding.
True, true. But then, this is something, sometimes we have to see that in a larger context, in a larger picture.
Mhm.
Once, my ego is, could be an evil or could be an, a good thing.
Mhm.
It's not necessary that it will be an evil only.
Hmm.
Like in a larger picture, I mean, if
Yeah,
you,
yeah, correct. In a larger picture of life, yes. Like when you exclude yourself and see things in a universe level, yes, correct. What you are saying is right.
right, right, yes. Good
So,
morning, Swati.
Good morning. Sorry, બહુ લેટ થઈ ગયું.
હા, ચાલે જ છે. રેકોર્ડિંગ કરીએ છે.
ઓકે ઓકે.
અમારે આ સ્લાઇડ ફિનિશ થવા આવી હવે.
હમ.
કઈ નહીં, તમે રહો, હું તમને
ઓકે.
પછી એક્સપ્લેન કરીશ બધું, અને
શ્યોર,
જરૂર પડે
ચોક્કસ
તો કોલ અલગથી લેશું, અને રેકોર્ડિંગ્સ છે એનું.
ચોક્કસ.
રાઈટ. So final thought is, you are not your ego. You are the universe experiencing itself. So basically, this statement comes, or when you come to this statement of realization after you give so much time to the ego. Matlab means, if you have worked on your ego for such a long time in a spiritual context, then you come to this point of realization that you are the universe experiencing itself. It's not a small statement, it's a big statement. But then it is not, we might not get the intensity of this statement right now. But if we spend, or if we have known ego, if we have known what is ego for so much time, we have given so much time to this thing of knowing the ego. After some time, you come to this statement, you come to this realization. So it's an ongoing practice, like, questioning everything what's going in our daily life, questioning that is it the right thing what I'm saying. I mean, it is my ego saying from inside, or it is what's right to do, what now we have to do it. There is very slight thin line between this thing. We have to see it very carefully. Viral, any point?
No, I think I'm good.
What did you get, or any question do you have?
The before the 2 3 slides back, there was a what is ego and what is identity. I mean,
Hmm.
there are some uh, discussions, right? That ego answers this in this kind of situation. So what I felt is anything that goes beyond identity is ego.
Correct.
Because if you see, identity has more to deal with your inner peace and your
It
what
is
you are.
very, but Viral, it is very thin line. It is, you have to see it very
Yeah.
consciously that this is because sometimes identity and ego become same thing. You are not sure from which context you are speaking. You might be speaking from the ego, but you realize yourself that, oh no, I'm speaking from the identity. That's a very thin line, and
Hmm.
it comes from the practice. It comes from being aware every time.
Right.
But you got the correct point that it comes, whatever goes beyond identity, it becomes an ego.
Hmm.
Sagar, makes sense to you? Ashwin?
Yeah.
But what about identity itself being an ego?
Sorry?
I mean, I was just getting a different perspective. What about identity itself being an ego?
I think that's what you said, right, Janice? There is a very thin line that we have to identify it as identity or ego. Sometimes it becomes identical for you, but it might not if you think the other way.
Actually, we can give examples and we can.
Yeah, that
What is
would be
identity and ego? Identity is I identify myself as a male, as an Indian, as a Bangalorean, as an engineer. I identify myself that way. Even if I don't have a degree in engineering, I can identify myself as an engineer. Uh, Even if I have a British passport, I can identify myself as an Indian that way. So that is about identity, is what I feel like. And ego is what is the example of ego, Janish? Like, can you explain in words?
It's a very thin line, as I said. So, identity is what actually you have said. That's correct. The definition of identity. It refers to our sense of self encompassing thoughts, emotions, and experiences. To put it in an example, you have said that I have a British passport, so that's my identity. That's correct. Now, what is ego? Ego
No,
is a
I said the
mental.
opposite. Even if I have a British passport, I can
Ah,
identify myself as an Indian. That's what I said. So just the document or the nominal thing doesn't matter. Me inside my brain, inside my mind, what I have, that
hmm,
matters, I said. There are some men
so,
who identify themselves as women as well. I mean, they have male body parts.
hmm,
They identify themselves as the opposite gender, and there has been stuff like that. So that's what I meant.
hmm,
Yeah, you can continue.
hmm. Ego is the mental construct that creates a sense of separation and individuality. Now, what is individuality over here? It is the identity. I'm asking.
yes, I think so.
Sagar,
What is? Sorry, I.
if you
Sense
read
of
this,
separation in what way? Can you give an example?
so it's a mental construct. Separation is a mental construct over that. What we construct inside our mind that I know I have this thing, this is mine, I know everything, I can understand, I can relate. When you give so much importance to I,
Exactly. So that is
that is
self-importance,
a,
right?
yes,
Self-importance.
yeah, self-importance. That's the ego.
Yeah.
And if you go one step ahead, then self-importance is something like you are the only one.
Yeah, for example, if I say, Janish, you're not intelligent, you're very stupid, then if you feel bad, then there is ego with
Exactly.
respect to intelligence.
Exactly.
And if you tell a woman like she's not beautiful, if the woman feels bad, then
But
that is her ego. Like
but that,
generally in modern times, many women, many women have a sense of ego with respect to their beauty,
yes.
and men for their wealth and what they do in society and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Generally,
Possessions.
yeah, you can continue.
Hmm. Yes, Sagar, you were saying something?
Yeah, so I was just trying to give another um example. I mean, unlike what Ashwin gave, it is more about this Zorb ball. It's called Zorb ball. I don't know. People walk with. Uh, they. It's like a game where people get into that ball, right? I mean, the physical ball, and it floats on the water. So basically, that person is in the inside that ball or bubble, which is always around him, surrounding him 360-degree, and with only through that he is able to have a perspective of the external world.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, that basically that's a layer of understanding which keeps himself inside that ball, not giving a different perspective. Even with that ball, you can walk on the water because of the physicalities of it, and you will never be able to experience how water feels when you are inside it, and you have never been able to get an experience of what air feels like. Maybe there is a certain amount of oxygen inside, but you can only survive when there is oxygen inside. I mean, when the oxygen gets emptied inside that, again you go back to um, basically having no life inside it. So this ball of that is created around that human, or the bubble that is created around that human in all 360 degrees possible. Uh, that is how it can be seen. I mean, again, this is more synonym, or the way of understanding. But how I think Ashwin gave the example that is more relatable to common understanding of how what it is.
And it's a very basic element of a human. If you see, you cannot see ego in other species.
Okay.
I mean, it is a human construct thing only, right?
Yes, for sure. I
Yeah,
think.
for sure. And it is for human only. It is a
uh,
constructed thing, and it is for human only. I mean, it was not. It's all a part of evolution, although, but it's a human only. It is only limited to human. It is not something
mm,
which is um a universal.
okay.
Janish, the feeling of the thought of taking revenge, what is it associated with?
Ego,
I'm just asking. The
ego,
thought of
ego,
taking revenge,
ego.
is it related to ego?
It is, yes,
Okay,
because you want to prove it to yourself.
okay.
जनिश
Yes, Swati.
सॉरी अच्छा मैं ये बोल रही थी कि अभी अभी तुमने बोला ना कि ह्यूमन में ही ईगो होता है
हाँ.
अदर स्पीसीज में नहीं होता
Hmm.
तो कभी ऑब्जर्व किया है तुमने कभी बर्ड्स को कभी स्क्विरल्स को जैसे अभी अभी जस्ट इसने बोला है ये सॉरी अश्विन ने बोला कि रिवेंज क्या होता है रिवेंज किससे रिलेटेड है
Hmm.
तो रिवेंज तो एनिमल्स में कॉमन होता है
कहाँ होता है?
क्यों नहीं होता? जैसे अच्छा, ईगो मतलब स्पेसिफिकली हम ये नहीं बोल सकते, क्योंकि हम बर्ड नहीं है, हम बर्ड की तरह नहीं सोच सकते। हम अपनी तरह से बर्ड को सोचते हैं। मेरे मेरे यहाँ पे बहुत सारे बर्ड्स आते हैं, जो दाने डाले हम लोग या कुछ भी हो, पूरे एक बंच में अपना ये लीडरशिप जमाने के लिए जो एक बर्ड करता है ना, वो मैंने कई बार देखा है। मतलब लगभग हर रोज देखती हूँ।
हम्म
पैरट्स होते हैं, स्क्विरल्स होती हैं, वो काबर बोलते हैं गुजराती में, हम लोग हिंदी में शायद मैना बोलते हैं उसको।
हम्म
ये सारे बर्ड्स ना अपने अपने ग्रुप में अपना एक लीडरशिप प्रूव करने की कोशिश करते हैं। ये मैं रोज देखती हूँ।
हम्म
तो ये क्या है? हमें उसमें पढ़ना नहीं है, हमें सिर्फ
अगर
अपने में ही
नहीं
रहना है, लेकिन
नहीं
ये
हम
मेरा एक ऑब्जर्वेशन है।
नहीं, वो ऑब्जर्वेशन है, बराबर है, बट वो
हाँ।
वो हमने पढ़ना नहीं है, तो फिर बिना पढ़े हम बताएंगे कैसे? ईगो ने
नहीं,
हमने पढ़ा है
ईगो
तभी
मतलब
तो
उसमें
बताया।
भी होता है, उसमें भी होता है ईगो।
नहीं, वो हमारा
डायरेक्ट
पढ़ा
नहीं
हुआ,
होता है।
वो हमारा ऑब्जर्वेशन है, और वो हमारा ही पढ़ा हुआ है, दैट द लैंग्वेज विच यू आर स्पीकिंग नाउ इज अ लैंग्वेज विच
हम्म।
वी ह्यूमन हैव ओनली क्रिएटेड, वी डोंट नो दैट इट वाज
हाँ,
ईगो नॉट। वो तो
तो
पता
मैं
नहीं।
वही बोल रही हूँ कि ये हम लोग ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हैं, ये हम सोच रहे हैं कि ये ईगो है उसका।
हाँ, बट क्या है, व्हाई वी हैव ब्रॉट दिस टर्म ईगो, व्हाई वी हैव गिवन सो मच importance to this topic ego in our human life is because it is blocking us from knowing many other things, and it is actually क्या बोलते हैं, नुकसान है, it is damaging others. Ego is damaging others life as well, because one person ego is damaging others person life. So that's the reason we are concerned about this, and we are bringing this topic, we in the sense human, not
Yes.
us, right? So when I say we, you relate to that, we, I'm talking about human consciousness,
हम्म।
humanity.
देखो, देखो यही बात, ये यहाँ पर भी एक सच है। मैं अपने बारे में ही बात कर रही हूँ सिर्फ, कि मेरा एक ईगो है कि मैं ये कर पा रही हूँ या मैं वो कर पा रही हूँ, या मैंने अगर मैंने कुछ किया तो उसके लिए मुझे प्राउड है अपने आप पे।
हम्म
तो धीरे धीरे ना वो प्राउड का जो कलेक्शन
जंगल।
होता है ना, बढ़ बढ़ के एक ईगो हो जाता है मेरा, कि देखो
अरे
मेरे से तो ये होता है, ये होता है। लेकिन वो किसी और को नुकसान नहीं करता। मेरे
नहीं,
मामले में वो मुझे बूस्ट अप करता है
that
कि
will
अगर
but
इससे भी ज्यादा मैं कर सकती हूँ।
हाँ, बट दैट इज नॉट डैमेजिंग अदर्स, वो नुकसान दूसरे को नहीं
हाँ,
कर रही,
तो
बट
लेकिन
दैट
वो
इज
ईगो तो है
डैमेजिंग।
मेरा,
हाँ, बट दैट इज
क्योंकि मैं
डैमेजिंग
उस पर
यू,
अड़ जाती हूँ
दैट
इसलिए।
इज दैट इज डैमेजिंग यू, वो नुकसान आपको दे रहा है ना, लेकिन
नहीं, 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 वो मुझे उससे भी आगे एक स्टेप पर जाने में हेल्प करता है।
वो कैसे करेगा? क्योंकि वो ईगो है कि उसको ऐसा है कि मैं इससे अच्छा कर सकता हूँ या कर सकती हूँ,
हाँ।
आई कैन
हाँ,
डू इट बेटर।
और हाँ,
उसी
और
पे तो
वो
पूरी
ट्राई
दुनिया
करने पर
चलती
वो भी मेरे
है।
से अचीव होता है कभी
बट
कभी।
बट वही तो है पूरी लाइफ, लाइफ का जो अभी का जो सिचुएशन है, द करंट एरा, और लास्ट फ्रॉम 50, आई डोंट नो हाउ मेनी इयर्स ऑफ द ह्यूमन लाइफ, वी आर ऑल स्ट्रगलिंग विद दैट ओनली, दैट आई एम बेटर, आई एम बेटर।
लेकिन मेरे मेरे लिए मैं जो सोचती हूँ आई एम बेटर, वो किसी और को नुकसान नहीं करता,
बट हाउ डू यू नो दैट?
क्योंकि वो मेरे बारे में ही
ये भी
होता है
ये
ना।
भी ये भी ये दिस
उससे
इज
मैं ये नहीं कहती कि जनिश मेरे से ये हुआ, देखो तुमसे नहीं हुआ। वो
दिस
मैं कभी नहीं करती।
but this statement is also an ego, that because of me no one is getting harm. This itself is a
लेकिन
egoistic statement.
ये ये तो रियलिटी है।
How do you know the truth?
मैं तुमसे एक बात करूँ कि जनिश, कल तक मेरे से नहीं हो पा रहा था, आज तो मैंने चाय बना ली, ये कर डाला, वो कर डाला, लेकिन जनिश तुम नहीं कर सकते,
नहीं, बट
तो ये
अगेन,
तुम्हें हर्ट करेगा।
नहीं, वो सी क्या होता है कि यह ईगो हमें, वो आप बोल रहे हो कि दूसरे को नुकसान नहीं करता है, हाउ डू यू नो दैट? द
हाँ।
रियलिटी को पता है, आप बोल रहे हो कि यू आर गेटिंग बेटर एट इट, राइट?
हम्म।
That is
हम्म।
good, but are you being aware that you are getting better it, or you are going into ego only? Okay, no, this is not harming others. This is
नहीं,
this. See,
मैं फील कर रही हूँ कि एक एक स्टेप बेटर हो रहा है,
if
इसलिए।
you are aware, if you are aware
हम्म।
about your action, okay, no, I
हम्म।
am doing this thing and this is getting betterment for me. It's okay.
हम्म।
I'm still saying there is a sense of ego in that. मैं अभी भी बोलूंगा कि उसमें भी ईगो की एक झलक है, कम है।
हाँ।
अगर वो अवेयरनेस है, तो वो अवेयरनेस से वो झलक, वो जो थोड़ा बहुत भी है वो निकल जाएगा, वो धीरे धीरे निकलेगा। वो एकदम ऐसा कोई नहीं बोल सकता कि वो ईगो है ही नहीं किसी के अंदर, मैं भी
नहीं,
बोलूंगा
नहीं, नहीं है,
रॉन्ग है।
पूरा ईगो ही है। थोड़ा अवेयरनेस भी है, थोड़ा ईगो भी है, मतलब है तो सही।
एग्जैक्टली
वो
तो
तो डिनाई नहीं कर सकते हम लोग,
तो अगर
लेकिन वो
अवेयरनेस
किसी को हर्ट नहीं करता यार, वो कैसे करेगा हर्ट?
नहीं
मैं
बट
अपने बारे में खुश हो जाऊं, अपने बारे में कुछ अच्छा सोच लूं और अपने अपनी मतलब पीठ
नहीं
थपथपा लूं,
बट
तो ये
स्वाति
क्या बर हाँ?
I can only say one thing over here is that it's very good कि if you are aware about your ego, but ये कैसा है कि अगर अवेयरनेस थोड़ी सी भी गई इधर उधर साइड पे के थोड़ी
हाँ हाँ,
हो गई ना, तो वो पूरा ऐसा फ्लो
वो किसी को
ego जो
डैमेज कर सकता है, वो सही है।
वो फिर when you at that moment you will speak at at you don't know that what you will speak and it will hurt
हम्म
others,
हम्म हम्म।
right?
हाँ वो है,
That's
अवेयरनेस के
be
साथ
there.
वो रहता है।
Exactly, वो awareness is there, then it's okay. By practicing this awareness ongoingly, this
हम्म,
ego will get disappear. But it takes so much time, and it's okay. And that's the process actually. It's not something that you or me are
हाँ
slowly.
तो बस मेरा तो यही कहना था कि सेल्फ के लिए, खुद के लिए जो ईगो होता है ना, वो हमेशा किसी को डैमेज नहीं करता। कभी कभी अगर अवेयरनेस चली जाए तो हो सकता है कि हमसे किसी को हर्ट हो जाए वो, या कोई और को कोई नुकसान हो जाए।
Yeah, but that's a one
लेकिन अगर
level.
हाँ
That's a one level of awareness.
हाँ
I'm sure everyone is getting over here. But when I'm speaking with Swati, मैं सबके साथ ही बात कर रहा हूँ ऐसा. Please consider that way. So when you say Swati that you वो awareness है मुझे and you have that awareness, so it's not harming others. So it's
हम्म,
good. You dig into your awareness. You keep continuing with your awareness. तो अच्छा
हाँ,
ही
और
है. Then it will
वो
go.
मैं हमेशा ख्याल रखती हूँ कि
And
मेरी
that
मतलब मेरी किसी भी बात से किसी को हर्ट नहीं हो।
Yeah, but that is one level of awareness, huh? You
हम्म,
cannot be that, okay, I am aware and I don't have ego. ऐसा नहीं बोल सकते. वो
नहीं
जाएगा.
नहीं, ईगो तो
The
है,
moment,
पूरा है, भर भर के है मेरे में तो।
the moment when you, and anyone, it's a matter of fact, in spirituality, the highly
हम्म
acclaimed spiritual seekers जो है अभी भी आज के टाइम में, जैसे you take it about जिद्दू कृष्णमूर्ति, ओशो, or anyone
हम्म
who is very highly spiritual person who have been till now, they will never say that I don't have ego, because वो एक
never।
मतलब you cannot dissolve it. You have to be just aware about it. And when you
वो तो ना,
yeah, when you become aware, this all things, the power of that ego will become less when you become aware. And the more you
हम्म,
become aware, then more power, the less the power of ego.
हाँ, जितना अवेयर रहे ना उतना ईगो का वो पावर जो है ना वो हमें हेल्प करता है। अगर अवेयरनेस गई तो वो दूसरों को नुकसान कर सकता है।
Correct.
और दूसरी बात, ये अभी अभी बात हुई कि ईगो, इंडिविजुअलिटी एंड आइडेंटिटी। तो ईगो एंड आइडेंटिटी बोथ आर सेम, तुमने अभी बोला।
It's a part. It's a part. You can only differentiate identity and ego when you are aware. You have to start practicing the awareness in yourself. Then you will see the difference between identity and ego. वो कॉन्सेप्चुअली
हम्म
नहीं समझेगा अभी आपको. इफ यू अभी कॉन्सेप्चुअली आप पढ़ भी लो, उसको समझने की ट्राई करो. बट ऐसा है कि इट्स नॉट अबाउट, यू विल गेट द क्लियर आइडिया वंस यू बीइंग स्टार्ट बीइंग अवेयर ऑफ दिस थिंग.
हाँ, तो बस मैं वही पूछ रही हूँ कि
हाँ, ये जो
ईगो
एक्सरसाइज है
एंड
ना.
आइडेंटिटी,
हाँ.
उसके बारे में थोड़ी बात करें।
यस यस, ईगो एंड आइडेंटिटी इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट
Ganesh, you
टॉपिक.
can continue in English also. Huh? I can understand, but I can't speak fluently.
Okay, got it. So ego and identity is a very crucial topic or a very crucial topic in spirituality. So इसके अंदर वही है कि it will not get cleared in like 1 hour or 2 hour. It takes time. But
हम्म
इसके लिए एक्सरसाइज एक ही है कि you start being aware 24/7.
हम्म
और अवेयरनेस क्या है वो तो हमने ऑलरेडी डिस्कस किया हुआ है पिछले सेशंस में. उसके लिंक्स भी है, पीपीटी भी सब शेयर किया. आप
हम्म
उधर से भी जाके एक बार रेफर कर सकते
हम्म।
हो. एंड इफ यू आर स्टिल हैव अ क्वेश्चन अबाउट अवेयरनेस, वी विल अगेन डिस्कस ऑन दिस, और यू कैन मैसेज मी और इन द ग्रुप एनीवेयर. तो
नहीं,
अवेयरनेस,
अवेयरनेस की बात नहीं है,
हाँ
ये
नहीं,
सिर्फ ईगो
अवेयरनेस,
एंड आइडेंटिटी को मुझे थोड़ा सा
ईगो तो
क्लैरिटी करना चाहिए
हाँ.
था।
Identity refers to our sense of self encompassing thoughts, emotions and experience. आपको क्या समझता है आइडेंटिटी के बारे में?
मुझे ईगो एंड आइडेंटिटी, तुमने बोला ना दोनों सेम है, तो मुझे थोड़ा उसके लिए थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन हो
नहीं,
रहा था,
इट्स अ
तो
पार्ट, बोथ
उसके
आर द,
हाँ
हाँ, इट्स अ पार्ट प्रोसेस. कैसा है कि आइडेंटिटी आपकी जो है अभी,
हम्म,
आप अपने आप को कैसे आइडेंटिफाई करते हो?
मतलब
हाउ डू यू आइडेंटिफाई योर सेल्फ? लाइक व्हेन यू, मतलब आप अभी जब भी आपको आपको किसी के साथ आप बात कर रहे हो, तो आप अपने आप को आइडेंटिफाई कैसे करके आप उनको कैसे बताते हो कि आप क्या हो, कौन हो, व्हाट इज
कैसे
गोइंग?
इंट्रोड्यूस करती हूँ अपने बारे में?
हाँ, क्या?
कैसे इंट्रोड्यूस करती हूँ मैं अपने बारे में, क्या बोलती हूँ वही?
इंट्रोड्यूस, इंट्रोड्यूस तो बहुत छोटा वर्ड हो गया, इंट्रोड्यूस की बात नहीं है। आइडेंटिटी मतलब आप अपने आप को कैसे देखते हो
हम्म,
एज अ ह्यूमन, आप
हम्म।
आपको कैसे देखते हो
हाँ
कि
हाँ हाँ, मैं समझ रही हूँ।
हाँ, कि आपके थॉट प्रोसेस कैसे है, आपके इमोशंस कैसे है, वो आप आइडेंटिफाई कैसे करते हो कि ये गुड है, बैड है, मेरी ये आइडेंटिटी है, मतलब मेरा नेचर मुझे पता है।
हम्म, हाँ
आप
मुझे पता है।
आपको आपका नेचर पूरा पता हो कि ऐसे रिएक्शंस
हम्म,
में, ऐसी सिचुएशन में ऐसे रिएक्शन आप देते हो, ये श्योर आप ऐसे ही देते
हम्म,
हो, पहले से वो पैटर्न बना हुआ है कि आप ऐसे रिएक्शन होता है तो आप ऐसा ही ऐसी सिचुएशन बनती है तो आप ऐसे ही रिएक्शन देते हो ऐसा।
हम्म।
तो वो जो
नहीं,
एक,
वो बदलता रहता है ना,
वो
धीरे धीरे।
बदलता रहता है, वही आइडेंटिटी है। वो बदलेगा भी, सेम भी रहेगा, वो आइडेंटिटी है आपका। एक पैटर्न जो बनता है वो आइडेंटिटी है आपकी।
तो इसका मतलब तो हमारी आइडेंटिटी हर
ये
रोज कुछ
अंदर
अलग अलग रहती है।
ये आइडेंटिटी को फिर आप बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस देते हो, तब वो उसका ईगो बनता है।
हम्म।
अश्विन।
तो आइडेंटिटी का तो यही मतलब हुआ ना कि एवरी मोमेंट हमें हमें देखना है कि हम कौन है, क्या है, कैसे लग रहे हैं, क्या कर रहे हैं। तो वो भी अवेयरनेस ही हुआ ना एक तरह से।
अवेयरनेस, तो अवेयरनेस का मतलब ही वो है कि हम जागते रहे।
अगर आइडेंटिटी का मतलब है कि हमें हमें हम हर वक्त हम अपने आप को ऑब्जर्व करते हैं कि क्या, जस्ट लाइक मिरर, ये तुमने जो पीपीटी में रखा हुआ है वही समझ लो कि आइडेंटिटी इज इमेज ऑफ आवर सेल्फ इन द मिरर,
यस, यस,
है
यस।
ना? तो
फिजिकल
अगर
इमेज
मिरर
नहीं
में देख
होगा
के ही
उसका।
24 घंटे हम जिए, तो
वो,
इसका मतलब एक अवेयरनेस के साथ ही जिए ना।
हाँ, वो फिजिकल इमेज ऐसा सच नहीं होता। वो ऐसा होता है कि यू आर ऑब्जर्विंग योर थॉट्स कि क्या चलता है,
हाँ।
मेरा पैटर्न क्या है लाइफ का, मैं
हम्म,
अभी तक जो डिसीजन मैंने लिए हैं वो किस बेस पे लिए हैं, और मैंने क्यों ऐसे
हम्म,
डिसीजन लिए हैं। या ऐसा पहले से प्रोग्रामिंग था मेरे अंदर कि ऐसी सिचुएशन आती है तो मुझे ऐसे डील करना है, या फिर इट इट वेंट ऑल ऑल ऑफ द सडन के ऐसे बस इंटेस्टेंटली हो गया। कैसी सिचुएशन आई तो मैंने ऐसे
हम्म,
रिएक्शन कर लिए, वो क्वेश्चन मार्क है उधर। वो आपको पता नहीं है, वो आपको उसको उसके अंदर डिग इन करना है, थोड़ा जाके देखना होगा आपके माइंड के अंदर आपको कि सही में मैं क्या
हम्म,
ऐसे रिएक्शन क्यों दे रहे हो ऐसी सिचुएशन पे। या फिर ये मेरे डीएनए के
हम्म,
अंदर है, इज दिस बिकॉज ऑफ माय डीएनए, माय पेरेंट्स आल्सो यूज्ड टू टेक सच गिव सच रिएक्शंस और डिसीजन इन सच सिचुएशन,
हम्म,
आई एम डूइंग द सेम थिंग, व्हाई, बिकॉज इट्स अ
हम्म,
डीएनए। मतलब this all are the possibilities, so we have to question
हम्म,
ourselves and know ourselves that what I am, who am I, what I'm doing, is this I'm doing it,
हम्म,
why, because I have been trained this way, or what is it?
हम्म,
So there's so much question mark over there. You have to dig in your mind and see it. You will get the answer. And when you obsessed with that thing, you, if it's good, you will start to identify that okay, it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, and then you start to give so much importance to yourself inside your brain that becomes an ego then.
यस, करेक्ट।
Viral, any point where you're missing? Sagar, anything you want to share? Ashwin.
No, I'm good.
स्वाति, इसका रिकॉर्डिंग
इसके,
हमने किया है। आई विल शेयर दिस
हाँ
बिकॉज
हाँ,
वी हैव ऑलरेडी कंप्लीटेड
श्योर।
दिस, ये स्लाइड।
हाँ हाँ
इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चन लेट मी नो।
हाँ, श्योर।
ओके, सो सागर, एनी पॉइंट यू वांट टू शेयर, और वी कैन कंक्लूड?
Janish, you can spread out to superego and ID as well, actually, and you can talk about it.
सुपर ईगो, व्हाट इज सुपर ईगो?
Superego, as I said, there are three things, right? ID, ego, and superego. Superego is more related to association with religion, and moral values and stuff like that. We can Google it out if you share the screen.
The superego is again I guess it's a new term of.
See, Janish, actually, we have taken the term ego from Latin, from Signum Freud only.
I mean, in English, if you have to take it ego, if we say in Indian philosophy, then it's a ahankar.
See, in Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory, superego is part of the personality that provides moral standards and controls socially unacceptable behavior. That is
Hmm.
superego.
Hmm.
That is socially unacceptable behavior is, let us say, there is a formal party and somebody starts dancing. That is socially unacceptable
For you, honestly. Hmm.
and stuff like that. Components are conscience and ego ideal. Conscience is the punishing part of the superego, which includes ideas about what is wrong, unacceptable, and improper. See, what is right and what is wrong is not the same for everyone, right?
Hmm.
If it was the
It is.
same for everyone, we would have given it another proper name. For me, eating non-veg food is unacceptable. For others, eating non-veg food is acceptable. For me, eating other humans is unacceptable. For almost everybody in this world, like eating humans is unacceptable. That way.
Hmm.
And
Right.
ego ideal, the rewarding part of superego, which includes ideas about what is admirable, acceptable, and worthy of praise.
Hmm. But I think
Admirable is me getting a
before before
PhD
jumping,
degree, yeah, or something like that. Me getting a master's degree, me becoming a Nobel laureate, me becoming the Prime Minister of India. That's all something admirable and worthy of praise or something like that.
but I think Ashwin, I want to just jump in and share this thing that we should first clear about what is ego. I
Yeah,
think still this is not very much clear. I mean, it's ongoing process, so I'm sure that it will. If you keep practicing this question within yourself, that if the action which I'm doing is coming from the ego or it's not coming from the ego, if we start questioning or practicing this thing, you will start to realize.
exactly, Janish. That's what my point. If you know the three things, ID, ego, and superego, if you are aware of the three terms,
Hmm.
then it is more easy to classify. If you only talk about ego, it is more difficult to classify then.
Okay.
That is why I said, that is why I bought in all the three concepts. That is ID, ego, and superego.
Hmm.
I believe all our actions will fall into only the three things. I mean,
Hmm.
there is nothing else, I believe, other than the three, at least in Sigmund Freud's classification.
Hmm.
Just like how Sigmund Freud classified, if we are aware about psychology and stuff like that, we can come up with our own model, actually. You can come up with 10 things.
Hmm.
He came up with three things, you can come up with 10 things. Yeah, that is what I wanted to say.
Okay. Sagar, anything?
No, as of now, I'm mostly observing. So, nothing.
Hmm. Okay. Viral?
I'm good, Janish. Yeah, as you said, this needs more. No, you need to go in deeper to understand what these things, and you have to identify that thin line between the identity and ego
Sure. Yes,
with the
yes.
help of awareness. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Sure, then let's conclude this thing. I will share some of the videos or a shorts related to ego in the group. Do watch, and if you have any question, you can share it over there or in the personal to me. We'll discuss on this thing.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. Okay. Let's conclude then. Okay, Swati? Okay, she is not available.
Okay, guys, have a happy weekend.
Yeah. Bye.